Part 36. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 351. A man relies on his clothes and a horse relies on his saddle. This is true at all. Nangong Huang finally chose to make a change. Su Ming drove him to a beauty salon for a major health care, oh no, a full set. It doesn't seem right to say that. In short, I just changed my look. I dyed the hair on my head and shaved it off. I threw all those big, exaggerated and tacky earrings in the trash can. I also took out the rings on my hands. More than half of it fell. There was only one ordinary ring that looked like a wire ring. Nangong Huang would wear it no matter what. It was said that it was a gift from his first girlfriend. With such a plan, a non-mainstream rebellious boy was transformed into a young and sunny boy with a certain evil temperament. Boy, you are nostalgic for old friendship. Bring the girl here sometime, and my brother-in-law will treat you to dinner. Su Ming patted Nangong Huang on the shoulder. We broke up in the third year of junior high school. I heard that we went back to the countryside to get engaged. Hey, graduation is the season of breaking up, Nangong Huang said with deep emotion. Su Ming. Nangong Huang touched the prickly short hair on the top of his head and said with a smile, I'm not used to it. Brother-in-law, I always feel like people on the street look at me strangely. Bullshit. People would look at you strangely when you went out on the street like that before. There were people looking at him. They were all little girls wearing short skirts, tight pants and thin clothes, with peach blossoms in their eyes. Su Ming was a little depressed. Why would a girl from his Nangong family immediately start shooting at him when he walks on the street? I go out on the street every day and don't see anyone ogling me. Not fair, not fair. Just visiting the beauty salon was not enough. Since he had to change his look, he had to change it from start to finish. He couldn't get rid of his outfit with numerous broken nails and small plastic sequins. Another car drove him directly to the pedestrian street. Find a men's clothing store that looks pretty good. As soon as I entered the door, I saw a poster of Chris Wu posted in the lobby of the men's clothing store, probably the spokesperson of this store. Sir, what do you need? A service girl came up to us and asked politely with a slight bow. Nyo, this is my brother-in-law. Su Ming pointed to Nangong Huang who was following behind. Wow, this gentleman is so handsome. The service girl's eyes were immediately attracted to Nangong Huang who was following behind. Is Wu Yufan as handsome as him? Su Ming asked angrily. The waitress pursed her lips and lowered her head to smile. Su Ming pointed to Wu Yufan who was posted on the wall, and said to the waitress fiercely, my brother-in-law will leave it to you. He will give you a jacket, pants, shirt, sportswear, socks, underwear, shoe belts, and any men's clothing you think is suitable. Come on. In short, just follow the poster and find a handsome guy. When the waiter girl knew that a big customer was coming, her eyes immediately lit up and she nodded heavily, well, don't worry, sir, leave it all to me. I promise I won't let you down. After saying that, the younger sister winked at Su Ming, would you like to buy some clothes too? Su Ming shrugged, pull him down, he still has the strength to compete with Wu Yufan. With my abilities, if I can hold on to death, I will just be Zhang Quilai. Sir, you are so humorous. Zhang Quilai is also very mature and masculine. And I think you look very much like Mr. Cheng Daoming when he was young. The waiter pursed her lips in amusement. Discerning. If you switch jobs to a clothing store endorsed by Cheng Daoming in the future, I will definitely buy clothes from you, Su Ming laughed. The waiter led Nangong Huang to choose clothes. Su Ming had nothing to do. After waiting in the lobby for more than half an hour, the waiter finally led Nangong Huang to reappear in front of him carrying large and small bags. Su Ming glanced at Nangong Huang in front of him, and then looked at the poster on the wall. Not to mention, it looked a bit similar. This is called rebirth. Sir, I'm glad you did, the waiter said with a smile. The woman smiled sweetly, and the man was about to pay. Su Ming handed over the peony platinum card that he had just replaced, swiped the card. "Sir, please wait a minute." The waitress was also experienced in the world. When she saw the platinum card, she was obviously stunned and smiled sweetly at Su Ming. "Brother-in-law, brother-in-law." As soon as the waiter left, Nangong Huang put down the big and small bags, pulled Su Ming aside, and whispered in a serious voice, "Brother-in-law, I tell you, that waiter only picks up expensive ones. These are worth $1 and for more than 10,000 yuan is almost 50,000 yuan. It's too expensive, so we won't buy it." Nangong Wang's father is the deputy captain of the traffic police detachment. His income is not small, but he spends tens of thousands on clothes at one time, which is quite shocking to him. "Do you know that when we went to Xiangjiang this time, your sister bought a black dress and how much it cost?" Su Ming blinked and asked. I know. She wore it to show off at home last time. When I asked her how much it cost, she didn't say. I guess it's 40,000 to 50,000, right? Brother-in-law, you are so good to my sister, Nangong Huang wrote. 4 to 50,000. Just add a zero after it and multiply it by 2, Su Ming said. How much is that? There was basically no room for redemption in Nangong Wang's mathematics. For such a simple question, he had to tilt his head and calculate for several seconds before he could get the result. Oh my God, brother-in-law, you are so rich. I will follow you wholeheartedly from now on, Nangong Huang suddenly yelled, hugged Su Ming's arm tightly, and shamelessly rubbed his face against his arm. The little girl who came over with the POS machine was so frightened that she froze beside her, her little heart aching. Such a handsome guy, a successful career man, and they are actually gay. What a pity. Su Ming drove Nangong Huang home. Along the way, Nangong Huang became interested in the Wrangler again, saying that a good horse deserves a good saddle. My sister is a stubborn woman who needs a man to control her. Only a man like you, my brother-in-law, can control my sister. Su Ming was speechless. What kind of logic is this? How can they be connected? And this kid betrayed the revolution too quickly. He stood on the same front with me without any psychological struggle. After sending him downstairs, Su Ming did not go upstairs, but gave him a few words of advice. The bar and restaurant are only a plan at present. It will take some time to transform Tingfeng Pavilion. He will not be able to start work within 10 days or half a month. But don't run around. Come with me to participate in the opening ceremony of Huiying County next week. Although Nangong Wang's cooking is not very good, he was trained in a regular chef school. After systematic training, his vision for choosing ingredients is much higher than that of a pure foodie like me. He also knows a lot of illusions and rules in the chef industry. Taking him along, firstly, let Nangong Huang see the world and do some serious work, secondly, he can be his consultant. Don't worry, brother-in-law. Starting tomorrow, I won't go anywhere. I'll just report to you every day and hang out with you. He shook his bags. Thank you, brother-in-law. Okay, I'm leaving now. Call me if you have anything. Go home and worry less about your parents. Thank you, brother-in-law. Su Ming smiled, released the handbrake, stepped on the accelerator, turned the steering wheel and left. When we first met, this kid looked non-mainstream and annoying. A few words made people want to kick him to death. But after getting along for a long time, Su Ming felt that he was still good in nature, but he was in the rebellious period of adolescence. The education he received at home might not be appropriate, so he became like that. Nangong Huang took the elevator upstairs with his bags. When he arrived at the door, his hands were not enough, so he used his head to hit the doorbell button. Not long after, the door lock clicked, and a woman in her 40s or 50s opened the door. Seeing Nangong Huang in front of her, the woman's eyes suddenly opened wide and round, with an incredible look on her face. Mom, why are you looking at me like that? You don't even recognize your own son. Make way, I'll come in. Nangong Huang leaned sideways and walked into the house next to his mother. Nangong Huang's mother grabbed Nangong Huang's arm. You turned her head and shouted incoherently inside, come out and see your son. My dad is at home. Nangong Huang shrank his neck in fear. A man with a dignified look and slightly gray hair walked out of the room inside, and said as he walked, what's wrong, this bastard, who knows how to make trouble outside all day long, dresses like a ghost, what trouble has he caused again? Before he finished speaking, the middle-aged man was also stunned when he saw the new look of Nangong Huang, and the next words were all stuck in his mouth and couldn't be said. He walked over, staring, looking Nangong Huang up and down for a long time, and asked in surprise, yeah? How could you bear to shave your messy hair? You've come to your senses, not bad, not bad. No, where did you get all these bags? Did you steal them? What are you talking about? Nangong Huang's mother pushed his father and pulled Nangong Huang to sit on the sofa. Tell me if there is something you can't figure out, don't scare me. If you like, dress up like before, and I won't say anything to you anymore. Nangong Huang used to do what he wanted no matter how his family scolded him, but now he suddenly changed his look from head to toe, which scared his mother a lot. What are you thinking? Isn't it good like this? Mom, you're just talking nonsense all day long. Nangong Huang rolled his eyes, held his head high and said, I have something to tell you. Starting tomorrow, I will officially go to work and run a bar. These things were bought by my brother-in-law. Also, I'm going on a business trip next week, so don't call me and interfere with my work. What a mess. How can you afford to open a bar? Where did I get a daughter and a brother-in-law? Nangong Huang's father asked rudely. Dad, are you confused? Why don't I have a sister? Huh, Nangong Huang's mother looked at her husband in confusion. I'll slap you to death. Wait, Nangong Huang quickly dodged, jumped far away, and cried out in grievance, my cousin, Nangong Yan's boyfriend, isn't that my brother-in-law? After talking for a long time, Nangong Huang finally explained what happened today, and then said proudly, you look down on me all day long, look at my brother-in-law, his vision, his mind, he is the one who can do great things. That's all for your sister's sake. Do you really think you are capable? Nangong Huang's father said angrily. Mom pushed him and complained, you Nangong family are all so stinky, treating your children like prisoners. No matter what, it's so good for your son now. Nangong Huang's father rolled his eyelids and glanced at Nangong Huang, and said yes in a deep voice, which was considered as tacit agreement. Then he said, Xiao Yan's boyfriend has helped our family a lot. Let's go downstairs to buy some things and go to the second brother's house in the evening. Thank you, Xiao Yan. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 352. The Yangtze River has been the mother river of the Chinese nation since ancient times. This third largest river in the world has a total length of 4,504 kilometers, a drainage area of 1 million square kilometers, and a total water resource of 961.6 billion cubic meters, which is 20 times that of the Yellow River. It has rich aquatic resources. Liberating in the past, it could provide about 500,000 tons of catch every year. In recent years, due to excessive hunting by humans, the Yangtze River's aquatic resources have been nearly exhausted, and the annual harvest is less than 80,000 tons. The world-famous Yangtze River shad, Chinese sturgeon, etc. are on the verge of extinction. They are the goddess of the Yangtze River. The so-called Beiji dolphin has been declared functionally extinct. The four most common domestic fishes have also dropped from more than 30 billion fish per year to less than 100 million at present. In order to protect water resources and the reproduction of aquatic organisms, 3-3 fish per year are required. June is the fishing ban season in the Yangtze River, and the specific time is determined by the governments of each river basin. On the way to Huayin County, Nangong Huang took an iPad and sat in the back seat to check information on the internet. In fact, this information is meaningless. Su Ming and the others are not from the Yangtze River Bureau. This trip to Huayin County is mainly for tourism and to see if there are any fisheries worth buying. The current situation of the Yangtze River water resources is not something Su Ming should be concerned about. Even if he wants to, he is unable to do so now. However, since Nangong Huang showed that he was willing to work hard and did his homework beforehand, Su Ming would certainly support him. Also coming together is Su Mang, the #1 personal bodyguard, and Hai Dongqing in the sky. Nangong took almost a month's leave before going to Xiangjiang. After coming back, he worked overtime all day to make up for the work and couldn't leave at all. I originally wanted to call Liangshi here, but he is the real aquatic products expert. Unfortunately, just one day before departure, Liangshi received bad news. Professor Chu called to say that the 2 Beiji dolphins raised in the Provincial Conservation Center had died. Yes, it is the Beiji dolphin known as the goddess of the Yangtze River that Nangong Huang mentioned just now. Su Ming also later learned that the Beiji dolphin is actually even rarer than the finless porpoise. In the wild, both species have basically become extinct. However, under the protection of artificial breeding, there are still a dozen or 20 finless porpoises, but the Beiji dolphin is rarer than the finless porpoise. For dolphins, there are only 2 single seedlings from the Provincial Fisheries Protection Center in the country. In other parts of the country, there are a few so-called Beiji dolphin centers, but they all sell dog meat with sheep's heads, and the only animals raised inside are finless porpoises. After receiving the call, Liangshi cried and asked for leave to return to the provincial capital. He attended the Beiji dolphin's farewell ceremony and performed an autopsy to make a specimen. It's not that Liangshi is a crybaby, she just has too deep feelings. He has been in college for 4 years. During the first year and a half of my postgraduate studies, except for classes, I spent almost all the remaining time at the conservation center with these 2 finless porpoises. Su Ming criticized Liangshi very seriously. No wonder he couldn't find a girlfriend and deserved to be single all his life. These 2 Beiji dolphins died in a relatively peaceful manner, but Professor Chu from the Provincial Academy of Agricultural Sciences and others were dumbfounded. Now they were completely dead. The death of the last 2 Beiji dolphins could almost declare the Beiji dolphins to be dead. This creature becomes extinct. When they were alive, they had some hope. Let them make a few babies, or use artificial insemination technology. Now that they are dead, it is like a widow giving up her son, and there is no hope at all. In the eyes of ordinary people like Su Ming, the extinction of the Beiji dolphin has no impact. It is nothing more than a sigh after dinner. But in the eyes of professionals like Professor Liang Shisu, this was a catastrophic disaster. Even the retired Principal Song went to the provincial capital with Liangshi to take a last look at the Beiji dolphin. Giant panda, alligator, Beiji dolphin, several of the most representative Chinese creatures, the Beiji dolphin is just gone. Alligators and giant pandas are also living on the verge of extinction. Su Ming estimates that maybe in 100 or 200 years, future generations will be extremely excited when they see a big bad wolf. Mom, look, the big bad wolf is a national treasure. Brother-in-law, let me tell you, what a waste of protection. Let those fishermen overfish, and until they are all extinct, let those bastard fishermen reap the consequences, Nangong Huang said angrily from the back row. The fisheries in the Yangtze River have dried up, and the fishermen cannot be blamed mainly. Su Ming shook his head. Yes, the fishermen use high technology and use small mesh nets, but if you look at the catch, you can see that 50 years ago, it was 500,000 tons, but now it is less than 80,000 tons, and the fish caught are actually less. Among the 4 major factors that cause biological extinction, including overfishing, water conservancy project construction, water environment pollution and sand dredging, overfishing has the smallest impact. The worst thing is that the construction of hydropower stations and dams directly cuts off the river flow, cuts off the migration routes of fish, and destroys fish habitats. There are also sewage discharges. There are countless heavily polluting enterprises on both sides of the Yangtze River. Liang Shi and his colleagues have investigated and found that 30,000 tons of sewage are discharged into the Yangtze River every second. Liang Shi half-jokingly said that in the past few decades, sewage pollution has caused far more damage to China than the Japanese invasion of China, and many of the losses are permanent. Some species disappear unknowingly. It will not have as drastic social repercussions as the tainted milk powder incident, but species resources are gone when they disappear. This is a huge harm to species' genetic resources and biodiversity. When most of the fish species in the Yangtze River are gone, the Yangtze River will die. Does the government not care? Nangong Huang asked. Su Ming glanced at him and said, "Your brother-in-law, I'm not the government, so it's useless for you to ask me. I didn't realize that you, a guy who can't even recite the English alphabet, are actually quite concerned about the country and the people." Nangong Huang said something that made Su Ming very upset. Every man has a share of responsibility for the rise and fall of a country. Different positions lead to different ways of settling accounts. Liang Shi only calculated environmental accounts, but it must be said that pollution also brought economic prosperity, and the trade-offs cannot be explained in a few words. Su Ming was too lazy to think about such a lofty question. It was more important to manage his own piece of land. Huiying County is just over 3 kilometers away from Yangchuan City. You don't even need to take the national highway. After leaving the city and driving along the county road for a while, you will arrive at a small county town by the river. The county town is not big. Standing at a slightly higher place, you can have a panoramic view of the entire county town. It is just a large fishing village with a slightly higher degree of modernization. It has been the third day since the Yangtze River opened for fishing. After entering the city, there is no sign of water depletion. On the contrary, it is bustling and prosperous. There are rows of large water tanks at the door of every household, which are densely packed with newly caught river fish. Various fishing houses and small restaurants with special features are everywhere. There are not only simple fishermen with dark skin, but also more tourists coming from all directions in the small county town at this time. Every year when the fishing season starts, Huiying County will attract many tourists to taste new fish. Huiying County has also developed some water tourism projects, such as cruises and fishing. Tourism has almost become the second industry of Huiying County. Su Ming came here this time with the idea of looking for economic fish and bringing them back to the reservoir for breeding. He was not in a hurry to rush to the venue of the exchange meeting. He parked his car in the parking lot outside the county town, walked and stopped along the way, asked the price of each fish stall, and inquired about the market. I didn't see any special fish, mainly the 4 big fish. There were also many small silverfish, and I saw 2 eels. Even Su Ming could tell that the eel was most likely artificially bred. These days, it is hard to find large-scale wild eels in the Yangtze River. Crabs are good, but the problem is that this place is not far from Poyang Lake. No matter how much they are cultivated, it is difficult to catch up with the reputation of Poyang Lake hairy crabs that have accumulated over the past decade. Moreover, these aggressive guys eat small fish fry. Putting them in the reservoir is not worth the loss. If they are not handled properly, they may become a disaster. Brother-in-law, look. Nangong Huang suddenly pulled Su Ming's sleeve and pointed at a remote fish shop. The shop was not big, but there were many tourists around the water tank at the door. They curiously stretched their heads to look and pointed at the fish tank. Squeezing into the crowd, I saw 3 large water tanks at the door, with hundreds of fat fish about the length of a palm in the water tank. These fish are round and plump, like a little fat boy, very cute, with blue-gray stripes on the back, white belly, and a straight little thorn on the back, shaking their heads and swimming in the water. At first glance, it looks like a mutant frog without legs. Su Ming was happy, no wonder so many people were watching. These fat fish in front of him were the legendary pufferfish. Pufferfish are brackish water animals that live in shallow seas. Every year when the fish are in season, a large number of pufferfish will return to the Yangtze River system, and the yield is rich. If they are along the coast, they can be caught almost all year round. Pufferfish muscles are as white as frost, the meat is plump, tender, and delicious, and contains extremely high protein. The ancients even said that if you don't eat pufferfish, you don't know the taste of fish. The pufferfish in front of him has a green back. Strictly speaking, it is called dark-striped oriental pufferfish. Nangong Huang introduced with a smile on his face that pufferfish has another nickname. Ancient literati called it 11 cheese milk, which means that its meat is as white as milk, plump and delicious, and melts in the mouth, just like the milk of the beautiful 11 she. Nonsense, ancient literati were all very reserved. 11 cheese milk is 11 cheese milk, but it definitely does not refer to 11 cheese milk, Su Ming said. What is that? Nangong Huang was still a half-grown child after all, and could not immediately understand the mess in Su Ming's mind. Forget it, it's nothing. Su Ming closed his mouth. It's okay to discuss this topic with Nangong, but don't teach the child bad things. In ancient China, there was a saying of risking life to eat pufferfish. Pufferfish contains a highly toxic substance. From ancient times to the present, many people have been poisoned to death by greedy pufferfish. Even so, there are still generations of gourmets who go to gamble their lives to eat pufferfish, which shows that its taste is indeed tempting. Plus, pufferfish looks cute, so there are a lot of people watching, but few people pay to buy it. Pufferfish is not something that ordinary housewives can make. Even the hotel chefs dare not try it easily. If they are not careful, they will cause death. The owner of the fish shop is a dark-skinned middle-aged man. He squatted behind the water tank and shouted anxiously, "Boss, buy a few. This thing is not only delicious, but also fun. You dare not eat it when you buy it home, but you can also keep it as a pet fish." Someone pointed at the pufferfish and laughed. How to play this? Dividing line. Yesterday was a good day, 520, and Huo Ji and Hua suddenly got together with Ruby Lin. When I got the news, I immediately searched all the toilets in the city, hoping to catch a crying wild Hu Ji. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 353. Look, I'll let the pufferfish perform a few shows for you. When the fisherman saw someone asking, he immediately showed his courtesy, broke off a 40-50 centimeters long wire, and poked a pufferfish twice on its back. The poked pufferfish suddenly stopped swimming and made a goo-goo-goo-goo sound, which sounded like a person sulking. Then, its stomach swelled up like a balloon. It was only then that it was clear that the pufferfish actually had fins, but they were very small. On both sides of its balloon-like body, two disproportionate fins flapped one after another, which looked extremely ridiculous. In the blink of an eye, the pufferfish's body swelled several times and became round like a ball. Two small eyes protruded from the ball and stared at these humans. Its body surface was also covered with a layer of short and sharp thorns, a bit like the inflatable rubber toys that can often be seen in tourist attraction shops. Pufferfish is also called angry fish because it will hold its belly full of anger when touched by people. This is actually a way for pufferfish to protect itself. When in danger, pufferfish will quickly inhale and expand its body into a ball, making it difficult for animals that want to eat it to bite it. After the pufferfish swelled, it probably found that it was not out of danger yet, so it started to play dead again, with a big belly, like a drowned, swollen floating corpse, floating on the water tank. This guy played cute to the extreme, causing laughter around him. A child stretched out his finger and wanted to poke the pufferfish's belly. "Be careful," Su Ming quickly grabbed the child and said seriously, "be careful not to get your finger bitten off." "Uncle is lying," the child didn't believe it at all. How could such a cute little fish bite people? Not only the child did not believe it, but also the tourists around him and the child's family. However, everyone knew that pufferfish was poisonous, and the child's parents did not want him to take the risk of touching pufferfish, so they nodded and smiled at Su Ming, and then frightened the child, saying, "Puffers are very powerful, more ferocious than tigers." "Humph, you are just lying," the child's nose was turned up. Everyone around laughed, but the fish boss did not laugh. He pointed at Su Ming and said, "This boss is an expert. Pufferfish really bites people." As he said this, he inserted half of the wire into the water and shook it twice around the mouth of the pufferfish that was pretending to be dead. What a fat pufferfish that can attack and defend. When the situation is not good, it will not hesitate to pretend to be dead and cute, and as long as there is a little chance, it will decisively launch a brutal counterattack. The pufferfish, which was still pretending to be dead just now, suddenly opened its mouth, revealing a neat, small, and delicate big plate teeth, and bit the number 6 wire directly with a click. "Isn't it fun? This guy has really strong teeth," the fishmonger proudly shook the half of the wire in front of everyone, and the broken end was smooth. A breath of cold air. "My God, isn't this a piranha? What would happen if it bites me? Fortunately I didn't buy it." The faces of the parents just now turned pale with fear, secretly saying that it was a close call. If it weren't for the young man who stopped it, who knows what would have happened. The child who was almost bitten was stunned for a moment, and then burst into tears. In fact, the temperament of pufferfish is relatively docile. "If you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. If you mess with me, I will try my best to endure it. I don't need to endure it anymore." Just like its nickname, angry fish, most of the time, when it is bullied, pufferfish is just sulking by itself, and it is not as aggressive as piranhas. "Don't be afraid," Su Ming winked at the child, "Uncle will let the pufferfish show you another fun show." As he spoke, he pulled a handful of water grass from under the water tank and threw it into the water tank. The child's face, the weather in June, changed quickly. Seeing that there was something fun again, the child stopped crying immediately, with traces of tears on his face. He bravely approached the water tank and stretched his head to look. The two parents held the child's hand and were also a little curious. "What show, do fish eat grass?" As soon as the water grass fell into the water and had not completely sunk, there were more than a dozen puffer fish in the water tank, and they swam over from all directions, opened their mouths and bit the water grass one by one, but did not bite it off or eat it, but continued to look for other water grass. Not long after, a handful of water grass was collected by the puffer fish, and each puffer fish had at least 1 or 2, and at most 7 or 8 water grass in its mouth. "Uncle, what are they doing?" the child asked curiously. Nangong Huang was also like a child, staring at the side. Among the group of people, only Su Meng looked at the pufferfish with no curiosity in his eyes, full of appetite. "They are giving flowers to girls," Su Ming smiled and pointed at the water. "Fatty can be very romantic." Just now, after the water grass fell into the water, only a small part of the pufferfish in the aquarium went to collect the water grass, and the rest of the majority were indifferent. The pufferfish holding the water grass shook its head and found the indifferent pufferfish, shaking its head and handing over the water grass in its mouth, looking attentive. Some animals courtship by their own charm, such as peacocks, some, by force, such as tigers and lions, and pufferfish courtship, playing the game of romance, giving flowers, oh, it should be said to be giving water grass. Those who just snatched the water grass were all male pufferfish. Perhaps because there were too few water plants, most female pufferfish were like proud little princesses, and they turned a blind eye to the male pufferfish that came to pay their respects. Only one male pufferfish that collected 7 or 8 pieces of water plants successfully won the beauty's heart. A smaller female pufferfish, with its head facing it, took the water plants from his mouth little by little. "Look, Mom, they are kissing," the child pointed at the pufferfish and shouted excitedly, "How shameless!" Although pufferfish are delicious and fun, they are poisonous after all. The tourists present are ordinary people, mostly curious. After watching for a while, they gradually dispersed. Only Su Ming and his friends were left in front of the originally bustling store. After Su Ming saw these pufferfish, he had already made up his mind to take them down and bring them back to the reservoir to raise them. As we all know, pufferfish are delicious, have high economic value, and look very pleasing. In addition, there are many wonderful things that ordinary people don't know. The most valuable thing is its toxin. It may be an exaggeration to describe it as a priceless treasure, but at least it is a treasure of sky-high price. The toxin has many uses. It can be made into a strong analgesic, which often has a miraculous effect on relieving pain for cancer patients. It is more than 100,000 times more effective than cocaine in relieving pain. If it is made into a medicine, it can effectively treat many skin diseases, and there is also a very important function, treating impotence. For a man with this problem, if he can cure this disease, he will not hesitate to spend any money. Therefore, the international price of pufferfish toxin is as high as more than $50,000 per gram, and the high purity can even be as high as $200,000 per gram, and it is in short supply. In addition, pufferfish skin can be extracted to make hemostatic powder, fish roe can treat poisonous sores, fish liver can treat burns, and blood can also detoxify. In short, pufferfish is a treasure from head to toe. There are 2 difficulties in artificially breeding pufferfish. The first is technology. Due to some special factors, there are very few people in China who master the technology of breeding pufferfish. Su Ming happened to have Liangshi's group of experts from the Academy of Agricultural Sciences under his command, so there is no technical problem. The second is the character of pufferfish. These little guys are very angry. After being caught by humans, if they are not careful, they will be angry to death in a very short time. What is the reason for this? Even the experts from the Academy of Agricultural Sciences cannot explain it clearly, so the scale of pufferfish breeding is limited. This can be solved through mental communication. "Boss, are you interested?" the fisherman observed Su Ming's expression and asked. "How do you sell this wholesale?" Su Ming pointed to the water tank. Fishermen have their simple and honest side, but also their mercenary side. Especially those fishermen who run tourist areas have very rich experience in dealing with tourists. Seeing that Su Ming really wanted to buy, the fisherman immediately pointed to the water tank proudly. "To be honest, I am the only one in the whole county who specializes in selling pufferfish." "Just tell me how much it costs," Su Ming interrupted him with a smile. You don't need to guess what he is going to say next, either how difficult it is to catch pufferfish, or how good the quality of the pufferfish he caught is. "How much do you want?" asked the fisherman. Su Ming pointed to the boxes in front of him. "How much do you have?" "I'll take them all." The fisherman rubbed his hands happily. "I have several boxes behind me. Together, there are more than 1,100 kilograms. I'll count it as 1,000 kilograms for you." 1 kilogram, well. The fisherman thought for a while, then pretended to be generous and smiled, saying, "How about this? Pufferfish is a rare thing, you can't buy it in the market. I'll give you a discount because you bought a lot, and you'll be charged 120 yuan per kilogram. According to this calculation, a deal can make 100,000 yuan, which sounds like a lot, but these fishermen are busy all year round, and such a big deal may not be done in one go, and various costs must be deducted. In fact, the average annual income of fishermen in Huiying County is less than 20,000 yuan, which is not high, and it is difficult to even support their families. Despite this, Su Ming shook his head and smiled, stood up and left without saying a word. "Hey, boss, don't leave, didn't you say you would buy fish?" The fisherman got anxious and stood up and called from behind. Su Ming turned around and laughed. "Uncle, you are not giving me a discount because I buy a lot, but because I am young and want to rip me off." The fisherman was stunned, rubbed his hands, and said with a smile, "How can you say that? The price can be negotiated. I'll give a price. If you think it's expensive, you can bargain. Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" After that, he came up and pulled Su Ming, saying politely, "Come on, come and sit at home. Let's talk about the price while drinking tea." Su Ming smiled, turned around and took Su Meng and Nangong Huang to follow the fisherman into the house. Fisherman's life is not easy, but making money also requires integrity. Su Ming doesn't want to be a sucker, buy fish at a high price, and be laughed at as a fool behind his back. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 354. After entering the house, the fisherman poured tea water for Su Ming and his friends, and then began to complain and brag about the value of pufferfish. Su Ming smiled and said nothing. While drinking tea, he listened to the fisherman talking about a lot of irrelevant things. When the fisherman had almost finished talking, he put down the cup and said, "Uncle, let's not talk about anything else. I'll give you 60 yuan per catty." "What, 60 yuan per catty?" The fisherman almost jumped up. No, you are talking nonsense. I can't sell it at this price." "Forget it then." Su Ming stood up and prepared to leave again. The fisherman was immediately depressed and stopped at the door, complaining, "You young man, why are you like this every time? You leave without saying a few words. You don't have any sincerity at all." He stood at the door like this, and Su Ming didn't feel anything. Su Meng immediately quit and took a step forward to block Su Ming. Like a giant, he stared at the fisherman from a high position. The fisherman thought Su Meng was going to beat him up, and was startled. His head couldn't stand 2 or 3 punches from Su Meng. Su Ming quickly pulled Su Meng, and he didn't mean any harm. "Let's talk it over," the fisherman said. "Uncle, let's talk about it." "It's not that I don't have sincerity," Su Ming said with a smile. "The puffer fish in the market is only 30–40 pounds. Of course, you are alive, so I give you 60, which is not a loss for you. It is true that puffer fish is a treasure from head to toe, but due to extraction technology and small breeding scale, generally only puffer fish meat is used, and other parts are wasted unless they are farmed in large quantities. But the problem is that due to policy reasons, few puffer fish are farmed in large quantities." The fisherman was exposed in front of him, but he was not nervous. Instead, he said confidently, "Then go to the market and see if you can buy thousands of kilograms of pufferfish. Young man, there are no supermarkets in Yangchuan City that sell pufferfish. Even if you go to a big restaurant, you may not be able to order pufferfish. It is a rare thing." What the boss said is true. Not to mention the supermarkets in Yangchuan City, supermarkets all over the country, as long as they are legal, no one dares to sell pufferfish blatantly. As for restaurants, it is also rare to sell pufferfish. A roasted pufferfish costs at least hundreds and at most thousands of yuan. It tastes good and has a big profit, but it cannot be bought in supermarkets and most restaurants, so that people who don't know the truth think that pufferfish is a rare and high-end fish. In fact, the output of pufferfish is still very abundant. "Uncle, you are bullying me for being young and ignorant again." Su Ming laughed. "Why can't I buy it? Do I need to tell you?" "Then tell me why," the fisherman was still unwilling to give up and asked stubbornly. "Uncle, if you insist on telling me, do you know the food safety law? You are engaging in illegal activities now." Su Ming glared at him unhappily, pointed at the water tank outside, and said, "Puffer fish is poisonous. The country allows it to be raised, but it is not allowed to be sold. Unless there is a special franchise qualification certificate. Uncle, do you have this certificate? It is precisely because the country does not allow the sale of puffer fish that there are very few breeders." After the fishermen fished up the puffer fish, most of them were released, so that puffer fish are extremely rare in the market. From a certain perspective, this also protects the puffer fish. If it can be sold, according to the Chinese people's big appetite, it will take a few years to eat the puffer fish to extinction. "Hey, you, who told you that?" The fisherman refused to admit it even after being exposed, and argued, "If the country doesn't allow it, how can I dare to buy more than 1,000 kilograms of puffer fish? Besides, if you go to big cities, you will see that many big restaurants still sell it. In some cities in the south of the Yangtze River, there is a tradition of eating puffer fish, and the local government turns a blind eye to it, so puffer fish is still circulating in the market, but the quantity is very small. Moreover, there are strict rules for making puffer fish. For example, after the puffer fish is cooked, the chef will taste it once, and the waiter will taste it again after 10 minutes. After 20 minutes, it can be served to the guests. In big cities like the capital and Shanghai, some restaurants with backgrounds do sell puffer fish, but in theory, they are basically illegal. If you want to operate puffer fish legally, you must obtain a special operation certificate. Nangong Huang was not happy with it anymore. He put his hands in his pockets and said nonchalantly, "Boss, who are you trying to fool? My brother-in-law is an expert. How can he be wrong? You treat us like 3-year-old kids. Brother, you can't just come and lower my price with the word expert. We also work hard in the wind and rain to earn some hard-earned money. It's fine if you don't buy it, but you also say that I'm breaking the law. Isn't this ruining my business?" "This won't do," the fisherman said dissatisfiedly. Su Ming smiled and took out his work certificate from the zoo from his pocket and showed it to the fisherman. The fisherman took the certificate and took a look at it. His attitude immediately changed. He smiled and said, hey, he's really an expert. If you had said it earlier, there would be no such thing. The price is easy to negotiate. Everything is easy to negotiate. This certificate is not to use power to pressure people. No matter how powerful the zoo director is, he can't control an unrelated fisherman. But it proved that what Su Ming said just now was not hearsay. As a zoo director, he must be very familiar with the laws related to animals. After bargaining, Su Ming was not too stingy in the end. He made some concessions and sold it at 65 yuan per catty, but he had to guarantee that they were all alive. Don't worry about this, Director Su. I definitely can't destroy my own brand. The deal was done, and the fisherman was asked to deliver these pufferfish to Huading Reservoir. He explained the details of delivery and withdrawal. Su Ming was not in a hurry to leave, so he chatted with the fisherman for a few words. The fishing boss's surname is Gu, and his ancestors have been fishing in Huaying County for generations. Over the years, fishing has become less and less, so Lao Gu has an active mind, so he came up with the idea of fishing. Due to the national ban on selling, there are few on the market, and most people don't know the market. On the contrary, the prices purchased from other fishermen are very cheap. Lao Gu specializes in catching puffer fish every year and buys puffer fish caught by other fishermen in Huaying County. He is considered a big puffer fish farmer in Huaying County. Sometimes restaurants come to buy small amounts and sell the rest as long as they can. For a small part, Lao Gu would be considered a profit. According to the situation in previous years, Lao Gu could only sell 600 to 700 jins of the more than 1,000 kilograms of puffer fish in the end. After deducting the cost, he only made 30,000 to 40,000 yuan. The remaining puffer fish will all die out soon. Hey, it's such a pity when you think about it, such a good fish was wasted like this, Lao Gu said with a wry smile. Lao Gu, if you collect puffer fish in the future, don't sell them publicly. This is illegal after all. Su Ming thought for a while. Send them all to me and I will charge them at today's price. That's great. Director Su, I will be doing your business exclusively from now on. Lao Gu was overjoyed. Lao Gu has a Philistine side, and conversely, he also has a simple side, and Philistine often means capable. Su Ming smiled and said, not just a puffer fish, you are an old fisherman in Huiying County. You are familiar with people and have a good reputation. Hey, don't take it seriously, don't take it seriously. Lao Gu waved his hands with a smile that was half modest and half proud. That means I know more people, and the folks will still give me face. That's what I mean. From now on, you can help me keep an eye on it in Huiying County. If you catch rare fish, such as big fish weighing hundreds of pounds, precious fish such as anchovies and sari, or if you find any rare animals, if you notice any traces of it, you can inform me as soon as possible and you can buy it on the spot. I'll pay for it, so I won't lose anything to you, Su Ming said. That's no problem. Although there aren't many big fish weighing hundreds of kilograms in recent years, you can still catch them. But anchovies and sari. Lao Gu shook his head and smiled bitterly, and gestured with his hands. 500 meters. If you can drag a net in the river for a week and catch a sari, that's God's blessing. As for the anchovy, hey, it's already extinct. Among the three delicacies of the Yangtze River, anchovy, sari, and puffer fish are the most abundant. However, the anchovy and sari are almost extinct, so they are truly valuable but not marketable. Of course Su Ming knew it. He nodded, stood up and walked out. I know, it's a big deal whether there are dates or not. Anyway, you help me keep an eye on it. It's best if you have them. It doesn't matter if you don't have them. Okay, don't worry. Lao Gu followed from behind and asked, how about I take you around the county? I'm familiar with several big fish sellers in the county. I'll take you there. For my sake, in terms of face, you will never suffer any loss when selling fish. Let's talk about it. I have to go to Huiyin Hotel to have a meeting, Su Ming said. Well, I won't give it away. Lao Gu slapped his forehead again. Oh, the day after tomorrow, my boat will be launched into the water. Do you want to go with us to have fun? Then we will catch a few big-headed fish to stew in soup. Enjoy the fish head soup while watching the scenery on the river, it's absolutely delicious. Okay, I'll come find you then, Su Ming nodded. After leaving Lao Gu's house and walking along the only main road in the county, we arrived at the host venue of the exchange meeting, the Huiyin County Hotel. Just hearing the name would make people think that this is a shabby county guest house, but after seeing the hotel, it is completely different. The 12-story hotel building stands like a giant in Zhenjiang. It stands on the riverside and faces the county government building half a kilometer away. It has become the two landmark buildings in Huiyin County. There was a first-class row of luxury cars parked in front of the hotel, many of which could be called luxury cars. The moment you walk into the hotel door, you feel like you have traveled from a backward and poor small county to a modern big city. That girl Rosa didn't make it clear before. Anyone can come to Huiyin County's fishing ceremony. Only the exchange meeting held at the Huiyin County Hotel requires an invitation letter. After showing the invitation letter to the waiter at the front desk, Su Ming and his party were guided by a waiter to a large banquet hall on the 7th floor. There were already many people in the banquet hall. There was a large space in the middle of the banquet hall, with a row of large chopping boards, brand new high-end kitchenware, and a few people wearing chef hats busy doing something on the side. At least a third of the people in the banquet hall were dressed as chefs. Wow! What a feast for famous chefs, Nangong Huang suddenly became excited. He pulled Su Ming's sleeve and said, "Brother-in-law, I have heard that every year when fishing begins, a group of famous chefs from all over the world will appear to show off their talents. Today it's a blessing for the eyes and the mouth. No matter how rich ordinary people are, they can't gather so many famous chefs together. That's just right. You should learn from it." Su Ming smiled. As soon as he entered the door, he heard a familiar voice coming from the side. "Hey, isn't this Mr. Su? Nice to meet you." Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 355. Looking sideways, a handsome young man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes in a well-dressed suit came over, and he was holding a pretty girl who looked very pure and even like a schoolgirl. Among the people Su Ming knew, only Ren Chen would change different women around him every time he appeared. Why did this guy come? Who cares about fishing and cooking? Brother-in-law, you are so amazing. You even know the chairman of our school, Nangong Huang muttered admiringly. After saying this, Su Ming remembered that Ren Chen's company specializes in education and training. Oriental Chef School, Excavator Technology Center, and several famous college entrance examination, test, and civil servant training schools are all Ren Chen's industries. Strictly speaking, Ren Chen can be regarded as a leader in private education in Yangchuan City, and even in the national education industry, he has a certain status. Several of his educational units have been integrated and listed, passed the review, and are queuing up. Misleading students. Such a person can also run an education. Su Ming was heartbroken, turned his head to look at Nangong Huang beside him, and then patted his shoulder. "I understand, you were like that for a reason, I can't blame you." His tone was full of sympathy, just like a loving middle school student, seeing an ignorant boy who went astray. Not only did he not blame him for doing something wrong, but comforted him that it was the society that harmed him. Ah! Nangong Huang opened his mouth and was dumbfounded. In a word, Ren Chen had already walked up to Su Ming with the young girl, with a very enthusiastic attitude, and laughed. "Boss Su, nice to meet you, I didn't expect to see you here. Come on, let me introduce you, this is Nana. Nana, Boss Su is your boss's boss." The young female student Nana called sweetly, "Hello, Boss Su, please take care of me in the future." From this point of view, it was probably the chick that Ren Chen asked Wang how to go through the back door and arrange for him to enter the live broadcast platform. Su Ming responded indifferently. "I really don't understand why Ren Chen likes to find these mediocre women when his financial strength is stronger than mine." Not far away, a man wearing a tall chef's hat strode to the center of the banquet hall and used a long-handled hammer in his hand to hit a gilded bronze gong hanging in the center. Dong, the sound of the gong echoed in the hall. This year's Weian County Yangtze River Fishing and Cooking Exchange Conference has officially begun. Ren Chen waved his hand slightly. "Mr. Su, it's better to meet by chance than to invite each other. Let's sit together." "Ahem, Mr. Ren, let's sit separately." Su Ming laughed. Ren Chen is not a hateful person. If it weren't for the previous Nangong incident, he would even be a little interesting. After the Nangong incident, Ren Chen took the initiative to withdraw. Although Su Ming didn't intend to embarrass him, he didn't intend to make friends with him. Su Ming left a little ruthlessly, which made Ren Chen a little embarrassed. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Mr. Ren, why are you so polite to him? He's not a big boss." Nana pouted and said coquettishly. "Is that what you should say?" Ren Chen's face sank. After the opening, everyone took their seats. Su Ming's seat was relatively far back. Fortunately, the banquet hall was very spacious and the guests were relatively scattered. Except for the chefs who were going to show their cooking skills, all of them sat in the first row. The rest of the guests had their own tables and seats, scattered around the center of the banquet hall. Even if they sat in the back, they could clearly see everything happening on the central stage. First, there was a speech by the leaders who were in line with the occasion. Several leaders from Huayin County came to the stage to speak. Brother-in-law, don't you want to invite a few chefs? Nangong Huang pointed to the chefs sitting in the front row and said excitedly, these are all famous chefs. Some of them have come to our school to give lectures. Their level is absolutely first class. Su Ming didn't know how good these chefs were, but they sat there one by one. Even if they didn't say anything, their faces were full of pride. At a glance, you can tell that they are definitely leaders with status and identity in the industry. If we can hire 1 or 2 chefs of this level, it will certainly be of great benefit to the future development of Tingfeng Pavilion Hotel. However, the monthly salary of chefs of this level is at least tens of thousands, and it is not that you can poach them with money. They all have the background of big restaurants. Moreover, the more capable a person is, the worse his temper is. If he doesn't like it, he may not do it no matter how much money he is offered. Of course, if he is willing to pay a high price, for example, 200,000 or 300,000 a month, Su Ming estimates that at least half of the chefs here are willing to follow him. But in that case, the cost is too high, and the gain is not worth the loss. Maybe he will offend the hotel behind the chef and become the public enemy of the industry. If you can't hire a top chef, it's still okay to hire a few ordinary chefs. With wild boar meat, mushrooms and fish, Su Ming estimates that the business of Tingfeng Pavilion Hotel will not be too bad in the future. After the leader finished speaking, there was a fresh scene, offering sacrifices to the goddess of the river. The Zhongshen in different parts of China are different. The Zhongshen Niang statue in Huayin County looks a bit ferocious. No matter from which angle you look at it, the Zhongshen Niang on the stage, who is in human form but has a long tail, looks like a Yangtze alligator standing up. It's just that her breasts are a little bigger, and there are 2 rows of 4 breasts on her chest. The statue of the 4th Lady Zhongshen, the alligator Niang, is placed in the front, and behind it are a row of various other statues. I don't know what they are. Su Ming is curious and asks Nangong Huang, do you know what those are? Oh, these are the ancestors of the cooking industry, Nangong Huang said. Oh my God, you have so many ancestors in your cooking industry, Su Ming almost laughed out loud. There were 12 statues in total. Does that mean that chefs change their ancestors every month in a year? After Nangong Huang explained, Su Ming roughly understood. There are many Chinese cuisines. From the geographical location, there are 8 major cuisines, namely Lu, Sichuan, Guangdong, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, Fujian, Anhui, and Hunan. According to the characteristics of the dishes, there are 6 major cuisines, namely palace, government, temple, market, medicinal cuisine, hall, and countryside. Chefs of different cuisines have different lineages, and the ancestors worshipped by chefs of each lineage are different. For example, some people worship Yi Yin, who governed a big country like cooking a small fresh. Some people worship King Zhan, the inventor of chicken essence, as their ancestor, and some people worship Peng Ziu. The most brutal one among them is Yi Ya. Yi Ya was the exclusive chef of Zhang Xiaobai, Duke Huan of Qi during the spring and autumn period. He was also the first chef who knew how to blend the 5 flavors of salty, sweet, bitter, spicy, and sour. However, he was most famous for more than the 5 flavors. One day, Zhang Xiaobai said with his cheeks twitching, Yi Ya, I have no appetite these days. I feel uncomfortable eating everything. Do you have any solution? Yi Ya was shocked. This is unacceptable. If the king is not good, the country will not be good. If the country is not good, the world will be ruined. Wouldn't the people of the people be in dire straits? In order to save the people of the people, Yi Ya did something worse than an animal. He steamed his fat son and made meat soup. After eating, Zhang Xiaobai's appetite was really opened, his spirit was improved, he could sleep every day, and he could climb to the 5th floor in one breath without back pain. He praised Yi with tears in his eyes that you are a loyal minister. Su Ming had heard the story before. Yi offered his son. When I was a kid, I thought Yi was a demon. When I grew up and thought about it carefully, maybe there was a hidden story. Maybe there was an Uncle Wang living next door to Yi. Anyway, this is quite cruel, so from a certain perspective, chefs who play with knives have a murderous aura. There are many chefs coming today, from different pedigrees. In order not to offend anyone, the organizers simply listed all the chefs they could think of and had a big gathering of ancestors. After paying respect to the goddess, several leaders stepped down and the cooking exchange meeting officially began. Next, please welcome the chef of Ping Chalo in Jiangjin City, Master Shen Weidong. Ping Chalo has a great reputation in the province. It is an absolutely high-end dining club. When Su Ming and his friends were in school, they often boasted, "When I get rich, I will invite you to Ping Chalo for dinner." A chef with a head almost as thick as his neck walked up to the stage and clasped his fists around. His assistant carried a large box and slammed it on the chopping board. Shen Weidong opened the box in front of everyone to show it. Su Ming stretched his neck to look over, thinking there were some delicacies from the mountains and the sea. Unexpectedly, there were several compartments in the box, and each compartment was full of white rice. Chef Shen Weidong, who opened the show, actually performed cooking white rice. Cooking white rice, rice. Su Ming almost spit out his mouth. I came so far just to eat rice? In addition to rice, Shen Weidong also prepared a lot of other tools, lotus leaves, bamboo tubes, and started to work. The host introduced, Master Shen Weidong used two kinds of rice today. The first one is Jiangjin's specialty small sticky rice. Due to the dry weather in Jiangjin, the rice is dried by natural sunlight and has a harder taste. The second one is Yangzhou fragrant rice, which is exactly the opposite of small sticky rice. Due to the humid weather in the south, the rice is dried by machine. The outside is dry, but the inside is very soft. Shen Weidong used lotus leaves and bamboo tubes to simmer and process the two different types of rice. The sticky rice was wrapped in lotus leaves and steamed in a steamer. The lotus leaves seemed to be coated with a layer of oil of unknown origin, while the fragrant rice was stuffed into a bamboo tube, wrapped with a layer of mud, and placed on the stove and roasted directly over high heat. Because it was cooked in small quantities, the banquet hall was soon filled with the aroma of rice. What a master, Su Ming sniffed, his appetite was aroused. He didn't expect that ordinary rice could be made so fragrant. The fragrance was like an invisible hook that hooked people's appetite. You know, he is not hungry now. On the way here just now, the three of them bought a lot of snacks along the way. Su Meng smiled foolishly, his saliva was already flowing out. About 20 minutes later, the waiter brought a plate and served a bamboo bucket of fragrant rice and a small bag of sticky rice to each table one by one. Su Ming just took out his chopsticks and looked up, and the table was empty. Nangong Huang grabbed the bamboo tube rice, and Su Meng held the hot lotus leaf rice. It seems that the lotus leaf rice is only enough for him to eat in one bite. Is there any law? Su Ming was furious. Dividing line. The names of chapters 354 and 353 are repeated, but the content is not repeated, so don't worry. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 356. In the end, the three of them shared 2 portions of rice. The amount was pitifully small, and the total amount was probably less than 3 taels. A master is a master. When cooking, Shen Weidong did not add any special seasonings, but when he ate it, the rice actually had the fragrance of ginseng, the deliciousness of crab roe, and the taste of fish. Each grain of rice was full and round, and after eating it, the fragrance lingered in his mouth. Oh my God, this is over, Su Ming was depressed. After eating such rice, would he be able to eat the pig food cooked in the cafeteria when he went back? I'm afraid he was not the only one who had this idea. Only Ren Chen, who was far away, looked proud. He smelled the smell and didn't eat a bite at all. He gave all the rice to Nana, the innocent little girl who brought it. Shen Weidong walked down the stage and sat down with his head held high amid the applause of the audience. A row of chefs also clapped symbolically, but not as enthusiastically as the diners. It was a typical case of peers looking down on each other. Su Ming thought there would be audience ratings for this part, but unfortunately there was no such thing. The waiter brought water for rinsing the mouth, and after rinsing the mouth, we tasted the next dishes. Next, several chefs performed their special skills. The master chef of Yangzhou restaurant made 2 craft dishes, 1 carved tofu and 1 carved ice flour. These 2 dishes may not taste good, but they show the carving skills. Tofu and ice, one soft and one hard, are 2 completely different properties, which show the best skills. Ice is hard but brittle. If you don't use enough force, you can't carve it into shape. If you use too much force, the ice will crack. The master chef used a knife like the wind to cut a square ice block that was 1 meter square. There was a series of clicks, and ice chips flew all over the place. Like a magic trick, the big ice block suddenly turned into a 3-dimensional ice crystal wall. Many people gathered in the banquet hall to take pictures with their cameras. The moment the camera flash came on, the ice crystal wall suddenly shone brightly, making people's eyes hurt. It turns out that there is an octagonal beacon tower in the middle of the Great Wall. The design of this beacon tower is very clever, and it can actually reflect light from all directions. The name of this ice sculpture is called Arrogant China. The tofu is very soft and will fall apart with a slight touch. The master chef held the tofu in one hand and submerged it in the water, using the buoyancy of the water to ensure that the tofu would not fall apart. He held the carving knife in the other hand and worked in the water, almost blindly carving. The water splashed, and after more than 10 minutes, he held the tofu out with one hand and showed it to everyone. In his palm, there was a half-exposed palace dress beauty lying horizontally. The camera screen was pushed forward, and the facial features of the tofu beauty were clear, the eyebrows were lifelike, and even the folds on the palace dress were clearly visible. The most exaggerated thing was that under the gauze on the chest, there seemed to be. Su Ming immediately felt that he had met a soulmate. Soon, 7 graceful beauties in palace costumes with different postures were carved and placed on a tray covered with shaved ice. The cool air of the shaved ice was like green smoke, slowly overflowing around the tray. The 7 celestial maidens held fruits in their hands, feeling like they were in heaven. Peach banquet. The 3rd person to appear finally made another edible dish. The ingredients were also familiar to Su Ming, steamed puffer fish. But the most special thing was that this master chef did not completely remove the poisonous parts of the puffer fish. He simply bled it, removed the ovaries, placed a few grass-like ingredients on the plate, and steamed it. The audience immediately sighed. What a joke! Who doesn't know that puffer fish is poisonous? Everyone present had eaten and seen pufferfish before. Pufferfish has 3 major dangers: its internal organs, gonads, and blood are all highly toxic and can kill people. If you are not careful, even if you don't kill people, you will end up with numb tongue, swollen stomach, and blindness. Is this chef playing with the lives of the people present? Yan Yuyi, a Song dynasty writer, said in Yaiwan Siwang that pufferfish is a unique delicacy of aquatic creatures. It is said that it can kill people, but no one has died when it is cooked with cabbage, mugwort, and reed buds. Pufferfish toxins are the best tenderizers. Eating pufferfish to remove toxins is really a waste. You only need to use cabbage, mugwort, and reed buds to neutralize the toxins. The host introduced. When the pufferfish came out of the pot, the chef ignored the puzzled looks of the people present and put one on a plate and finished it in a few bites. After the chef finished eating, he waved to the audience in high spirits, and everyone was relieved. Then the waiter distributed the remaining pufferfish to each table like a butterfly flying through flowers. Su Ming's table was also given a pufferfish. He used to think that using melt in the mouth to describe meat was definitely bragging. No matter how tender the meat is, it is not Häagen-Dazs, how can it melt? But after eating this bite, he completely believed that the jelly-like pufferfish meat did not need to be bitten with teeth at all. With a light touch of the tongue, it melted into greasy minced meat, fresh and fragrant. No wonder pufferfish meat is known as 11 she milk. Fan Li and King Fuke of Wu are really blessed people, Su Ming thought with envy. Time passed quickly. After several chefs presented one by one, it seemed to be 9 o'clock in the evening. However, the people present did not feel tired at all. Instead, they were full of energy and looked forward to what the next dish would be. Next, please invite the chef of Hong family cuisine, Master Hong Fi Fei, to show us his cooking skills. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience burst into warm applause. The applause was not uncommon. Since the first chef, Master Shen Weidong, performed his cooking stunt, every time a chef came on stage or left the stage, the audience would respond with thunderous applause, because the food was so delicious. But Su Ming noticed that this time, even the chefs in the first row, who had always looked down on their peers, were clapping vigorously and looking at Chef Hong Fi Fei on the stage. Peers look down on each other, and this is no exception in the chef world. In the past, no matter how powerful the master chef was, the other master chefs in the first row did not show much support, and the applause was sparse, which made it clear that they were just coping with the situation. But this time, it was just the opposite. The applause from the other chefs was warm and sincere. Could it be because Chef Hong not only had a sissy name, but was also a woman? Hong Fi Fei on the stage was the only female chef present. She looked young, about 20 years old. Compared with these old masters who were often in their 40s and 50s, she was definitely a junior. If it was said that because she was a woman, and a young and beautiful woman, these arrogant masters would lower their face and flatter her, Su Ming would be the first one to disbelieve it. What a joke, she's not Yang Mi. Men can spend a lot of money on women, and they can hold her in their hands and hold her in high esteem, but when it comes to their profession, no capable man will take the initiative to surrender to a woman's skirt, and it has nothing to do with her appearance. There is only one explanation: this Chef Hong Fi Fei might be the best cook tonight. Hey, it's a girl, she's not bad looking, Nangong Huang whistled, then said, but she's still a little short of my sister. A girl should be pretty in morning clothes. Su Ming smiled and said, a white dress is of course beautiful, this is called uniform temptation. Brother-in-law, you think I'm a child and don't know anything. I've only heard of the temptation of female police officers and flight attendants in uniforms, but there's no such thing as a female chef. Beautiful chef, you understand, Su Ming smiled, pointed his chin at the stage, and said, look at what she's going to cook. It's true. After the baptism of a series of magic skills by the previous chefs, even if the next chef cooks dragon liver and phoenix gall, the people present probably won't find it strange, but this young and beautiful chef once again whetted everyone's appetite. The people present were not children, and they could all see that this beautiful chef had a transcendent status among all the chefs. Everyone thought the same as Su Ming, why is she so awesome? After Hong Fi Fei came on stage, two assistants pushed in a small cart from outside. On the cart was a large woven bag that could fit one person. As they walked in, water was still dripping from the woven bag, leaving a water stain on the marble floor. When they reached the chopping board, Two male assistants worked together and lifted the woven bag onto the chopping board with a shout. Judging from the movements and expressions of the two male assistants, the stuff in the woven bag was definitely not light. After it was placed on the stage, the surface of the woven bag squirmed a few times, and it seemed that there was a living thing inside. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 357. There is clearly a living thing in the woven bag. Judging from the size and weight of the bag, the thing inside is a huge monster. Everyone looked up at the stage with expectation and curiosity, waiting for Hong Fei to reveal the answer. But before Hong Fei started, the host spoke first and said with a smile, "I don't need to elaborate on Master Hong's cooking skills. All the chefs in the industry present here give him a thumbs up. Even if Master Hong makes a fried rice, I believe we will be surprised. However, today, Master Hong has brought us even better news. Greater news." Everyone present was slightly stunned. What good news? Is this beautiful chef going to get married and invite everyone to dinner? This is not good news, but if the bride cooks by herself, even if she just directs the kitchen to make a wedding banquet, it is really good news. Everyone present can enjoy a feast. After the host finished speaking, he turned to look at Hong Fei and said with a smile, "Master Hong, do you want to announce it or do I want to say it?" "I'll say it." Hong Fei took the microphone generously, bowed slightly to everyone present, and then spoke in the expectant eyes of everyone. "The host just joked, it's not good news. My father is going to close the Hung Jiake restaurant and return to his hometown to retire. As you all know, I have been the chef of Hung Jiake. Now that Hung Jiake is no longer in business, my father can retire and rest for 10,000 years. As a junior, of course I support it. But the craftsmanship of my Hong family for more than 300 years cannot be lost in me, so next, I will find a restaurant to continue working. I hope all the seniors and bosses will take care of me." After speaking, Hong Fei bowed deeply to the audience. Wow! There was a lot of discussion in the banquet hall. The meaning was understood. Because Hung Jiake was closed, this beautiful chef wanted to change jobs. At least half of the people present are involved in the catering industry and are the leaders in the industry. The row of chefs are all employed in well-known restaurants. The importance of an excellent chef to the development of the restaurant business is self-evident. A chef like Hong Fei has undoubted personal ability. With her, she is a treasure of the store, which can satisfy all kinds of gourmets and make a name for herself. More importantly, there is a top chef in the back kitchen. Even if she doesn't do it herself, but just supervises and guides a little, the level of the back kitchen will have a qualitative leap. What's more, this is a young and beautiful chef. In all walks of life, beautiful women will definitely take advantage. The beautiful chef itself is the biggest signboard. Even a woman with average cooking skills can attract a large number of customers as long as she looks beautiful enough. No wonder the host said that this is a good news. Hong Fei used to work at Hung Jiake, which was her family's private property. No matter how high the price was, she would never switch to other big restaurants. Now that Hung Jiake is closed, Hong Fei has taken the initiative to express her willingness to work at other restaurants. This is a golden opportunity. Brother-in-law, aren't we hiring a chef?" Nangong Huang was so excited that he kept whispering, "What a great opportunity. I've heard of this Hong Fei. She started cooking at the age of 5, set up banquets at the age of 10, and was able to suppress several chefs at Hung Jiake at the age of 15. She is simply a legendary figure in the industry. She can cook all the 8 major cuisines, and she has her own unique private dishes. If she can be recruited, the zoo restaurant will definitely be popular. Brother-in-law, I tell you, this kind of person can sell a piece of shit for the price of shark fin. What a mess." Su Ming was disgusted by what he said. If Hong Fei could be recruited, it would be great. Even if it wasn't Hong Fi Fei, any chef present would be enough to support the zoo restaurant. The problem is that they definitely don't want to come to the zoo. There are so many professional large-scale high-end restaurants, but they go to the zoo, a small restaurant that is not much higher than the roadside restaurant. Whether it is income or social status, they are far inferior. Do they think they are out of their minds? The chefs present today are so powerful that it is no longer the restaurant that chooses them, but they choose the restaurant. Su Ming doesn't mind. As a person, you should know your strengths and weaknesses. At the current level of the zoo restaurant, he didn't expect to hire a chef of Hong Fi Fei's level, so he was not disappointed. We don't have any hope. But you should learn more from her, Su Ming pointed at Hong Fi Fei on the stage. When looking for a job, some people beg others humbly, but others may not pay attention to them. Although Hong Fi Fei said please take care of me, there was no humility in her words, but full of arrogance. It sounded like the restaurant hired her, but she took care of the other party. Sure enough, not long after Hong Fi Fei finished speaking, someone spoke up. Master Hong, I am the Deputy General Manager of AnimalRearing. If you are willing to work here, no matter how much you were paid at Hung Jiake before, we will give you double it. Mr. He, you AnimalRearing are too stingy. Hung Jiake is Master Hung's own industry. Do you care about that little salary? Someone said. Master Hong, our Menying II guarantees a minimum of 50,000 yuan per month, and also provides you with a car. We Jiangnanju also pay 50,000 yuan, and there is also a 10% commission. A 10% commission means that for every dish made, 10% of the selling price of the dish goes to the chef himself. A top chef like Hong Fi Fei will definitely be in charge of high-end banquets in any restaurant. The Jiangnanju that opened the door is a private club. It is not uncommon for a table to cost tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. Just from the commission, it is an astonishing amount in 1 month. Master Hong, a middle-aged fat man with a diamond ring on his finger that could blind people stood up and said in a deep voice, I have an only son who just came back from studying in Italy when he was 23 this year. I boast that he looks talented and has a lot of knowledge. Someone laughed. Boss Bai, this is Master Hong looking for a new home, why are you involving your son? Hey, to tell you the truth, Master Hong has shown his talent, and I want to find a daughter-in-law who can work in the hall and in the kitchen like Master Hong. Boss Bai, the rich and fat man, laughed and said, Master Hong, if you are willing to come to me in pavilion, I won't talk about the money. I make the decision and let my boy marry you. In the future, the entire Hin pavilion will not belong to you. Everyone in the room laughed. Many people know this wealthy boss Bai and know that he is such a person. His words are straightforward and not general. He can say whatever he thinks in his heart. He has no bad intentions and is not trying to tease Hong Fi Fei. Hong Fi Fei still had a smile on her face, but a look of displeasure quickly flashed across her face, as if she was unwilling to hear people mention marriage. The scene was like an auction. In just 2 minutes, several well-known restaurants were bidding, including one like Fatty Bai, who had entrusted his family property. Even the master chef sitting in the first row couldn't sit still. The 3 master chefs who had shown their skills just now ran onto the stage without even caring about their status, and argued fiercely in front of Hong Fi Fei, all of them blushing. Seemed to want to snatch Hong Fi Fei away. Fortunately, Su Ming didn't say anything before. Could it be that if he came to the zoo to sell lunch boxes, he would pay you 5,000 yuan a month? As soon as he said this, he would probably be laughed to death, or he might be regarded as a troublemaker and be kicked out of the banquet hall. However, from the brief bidding, Su Ming also saw from the side that the profits from the catering business were absolutely amazing. For a moment, everyone forgot the original purpose of this exchange meeting. All attention was focused on which restaurant Hong Fi Fei went to, and the big woven bag was still placed on the shore, moving. Hong Fei herself never expressed her position. She first persuaded the few chefs on stage, then persuaded them to get off the stage, picked up the microphone, and said with a smile, "Seniors, elders, please be quiet for a moment." What the hostess said worked, and the messy venue immediately calmed down, and everyone was waiting to hear what she had to say. "First of all, I want to thank everyone for their love, especially Mr. Bai. However, my niece will probably live up to your high expectations. I am not ready to consider personal issues for the time being. Hong Fei is also a person who can enjoy the scene." She smiled and politely declined Fatty Bai and asked her everyone present thank them before getting to the point. "Work is not something that can be done in a hurry. I have nothing to repay you for your kindness. I can only serve you a dish as a chef to show my appreciation." After Hong Fei finished speaking, she stopped rambling, put down the microphone, picked up a large alloy box, and unfolded it on the chopping board. Every chef has his own set of tools, many of which are unique. To a chef, tools are like a swordsman's sword. The chef who just came on stage also has such an exclusive toolbox. "Awesome," Su Ming said to himself. "Why is it so awesome? Brother-in-law, are you talking about her knives?" Nangong Huan was confused and thought Su Ming was pointing to the rows of tools of different shapes in Hong Fei's toolbox. No, Su Ming shook his head. "It's amazing because this beautiful chef not only knows how to cook, but also knows how to seize the opportunity to stir up the atmosphere. She's waiting for a prize. Just now, she posted a job search news, which triggered the first round of competition, but she didn't agree immediately. Then, she cooked this dish in front of everyone to prove that she was worth the money and to show her strength, thereby attracting major talents. The restaurant offers better terms. If I guess correctly, the next dish is definitely her best skill. When the time comes, there will be a lottery, and her worth will skyrocket based on the first round of bidding." Thinking about it, she used to be the young owner of the Hong family's cuisine, but now the Hong family's cuisine has stopped for some unknown reason. When she comes out to work hard, she must win enough benefits for herself. Hong family cuisine, Su Ming frowned slightly. He seemed to have heard this name somewhere, but for a while, he really couldn't remember it. On the stage, Hong Fei untied the rope that tied the mouth of the large woven bag, pulled the tail of the woven bag, and pulled it back hard. With a crash, the woven bag was torn off. The whole place was in an uproar as a ferocious creature appeared in front of everyone. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 358. As soon as the behemoth appeared, the whole audience screamed in surprise. "Oh my God! Where did you catch such a big old turtle?" Su Ming's eyes widened and he saw a giant turtle covered in black on the stage. The giant turtle is about the size of half a round tabletop. Its dark carapace is crisscrossed with traces of age erosion. Its two thick front legs are like small stone pillars. There is a layer of at least half an inch hanging down around the carapace. The thick and super large skirt swayed slightly as it struggled hard, like a shirt rustling in the wind in a storm. The skirt is the most delicious part of the old turtle's body. It is made of 100% gelatin. For such a giant turtle, the skirt alone is probably enough to make a whole table of dishes. A few thick thighs, like stone pillars, are full of explosive power, giving people a feeling that if it were not tied up, it could even use these legs to hold up the sky. The giant turtle is still alive, and its whole body is tightly tied up with black water-soaked ropes. In order to prevent it from snapping up and biting people, its head, which is the size of a football, is tightly tied with several black tapes. This is a necessary safety measure. Being bitten by such a big old turtle is no joke. It can break off your hands and feet. If it bites you on the neck, it will kill you on the spot. The giant turtle is not afraid of people at all. Its two small black eyes stare at the audience in front of it with a fierce light. The huge body swayed on the case, and the plastron and the metal case came into contact, making a series of muffled sounds. The old turtle, also commonly known as the tortoise, looks similar to the turtle, but they are very different. The turtle has a hard shell, while the turtle shell is relatively soft, with a delicious skirt around it. The turtle's back has patterns on its back, while the black pattern on the turtle's back is very light, almost non-existent. The meat of the turtle is generally old and hard, and rarely has any. People eat turtles, but the meat of old turtles is delicious and is a delicacy. The turtle is kind and honest, but the turtle is very cruel. Under normal circumstances, turtles do not bite people. If you touch a turtle with a branch or something, it will retract its head. Unless it is extremely hungry or threatened, the turtle will bite. The turtle is very aggressive. Even if it is not hungry, it will instinctively bite any creature that comes within its attack range, and will never let go after biting. If you are bitten by an old turtle, you will be in bad luck. Either the turtle will bite off the piece of meat it bites completely, or it will chop off the turtle's head. Especially don't struggle. The more you pull, the tighter the turtle will bite. Snapping turtles are also very fierce, but generally speaking, they still have a slow and honest character like turtles. Similar to the kind of honest people who have a bad temper, but turtles are different, they are completely violent elements. This seems to be the Tehu king turtle. "Do you want to say farewell, my concubine?" Nangong Huang murmured at the side. Sure enough, the host has already introduced on the stage, this is a king turtle from Tehu Lake. What Master Hong is going to bring to us today is the secret recipe of a Hong family dish, king turtle disarming. Please pay attention, this is a three-legged king turtle. Three-legged turtle? The audience in the audience was shocked. They stretched their heads to take a look. The people sitting at the front tables even left their seats rudely and moved towards the turtle. Hong Fei smiled slightly, held down the turtle's back carapace with one hand, and pushed the side of the turtle's body with the other hand, causing the turtle to fall in one direction, with its side facing forward. I saw that the turtle had only one hind leg, and the other side was empty under the back shell. It's so cruel, even the disabled are not spared. Su Ming grinned and took a breath, thinking that this overlord turtle was quite unlucky. Not to mention being born with a disability, he managed to live this long. In the end I still couldn't escape from the chopping board. Nangong Huang, however, seemed to have seen a ghost, and exclaimed in a low voice, "What kind of disabled turtle? This is a different species." "Alien? Why don't you say alien? Or just say it's an alien turtle?" Su Ming rolled his eyes and thought to himself, if I buy an old turtle and cut off a leg, keep it for a few years, and wait for the wound to recover. Yes, it's like this too. Nangong Huang explained quickly while staring at the three-legged turtle on the stage. In ancient times, there was no distinction between humans and turtles. There was a collective name for them all called Ao. Legend has it that Nuwa refined 5 color stones to mend the sky, and cut off a turtle to stand on the 4 poles. She used the limbs of giant turtles or turtles as pillars to support the sky. Of course Nuwa did this for the sake of human beings' survival, but she obviously didn't consider the old turtle's feelings. She was lying around at home eating fish, but somehow her limbs were cut off for a so-called just reason. Who is willing? After the giant turtles in the world heard the news, they were all terrified all day long, fearing that they would be taken by the Nuwa Empress and have their limbs cut off, leaving only a turtle. Oh no, only the turtle head was left, and it turned into a turtle. Turtle stick. Among them was a giant turtle from Yunmen's. It was a natural alien species with a body as big as a mountain. It was one of the candidates. Seeing that the day of having his hands chopped off and his feet stamped on was getting closer day by day, this giant turtle brother bit his teeth. Suddenly, he decided to cut off one of his hind legs. One less leg was better than 4. It means that there are so many giant turtles in the world, so it's hard for Nuwa to attack a disabled person like me, right? and since it is supporting the Tianzu, it must be the original complete set to achieve the best effect. I only have 3 legs, and I have to match one leg from another giant turtle. Isn't this an unqualified project? Soon, it was spread to 10, and then to hundreds, and this method became a secret known to the world. There were many giant turtles and giant tortoises to choose from, and they imitated each other and broke off one of their legs without hesitation. Suddenly, there were 3-legged turtles and lame turtles everywhere in the world. In order to ensure that the thighs that support the sky can be matched, Empress Nuwa did not choose these disabled people, but chose a brave old turtle who took the world as his own responsibility to support the sky. There is a children's TV series called Little Dragon Man that involves this plot. Of course, these giant turtles and giant turtles that retreated when encountering difficulties were also punished accordingly. Empress Nuwa was not so easy to fool. Afterwards, she called them together and said that since you are unwilling to contribute to the party and the country, now you have changed. Disabled people, whose lives are inconvenient, should simply stop running around in the future and just stay in one place honestly. After saying that, he slapped a pit into the earth, and then drew water from the Yangtze River, imprisoning the disabled turtles in disguise in this large pit filled with water. These disabled turtles and disabled old turtles have lived a life of love for each other since then, having sex every day, and have survived and multiplied from generation to generation in this large pit filled with water. Their descendants were punished by Nuwa and all had only 3 legs. This big pit was later called Tehu Lake, and the 3-legged giant turtle became a specialty of Tehu Lake. Because the number is so rare, it is not as famous as the 3 treasures of Tehu Lake: whitebait, whitefish, and white shrimp. From the perspective of passers-by, it is definitely the best food that can be encountered but cannot be found. That's awesome, Su Ming applauded. Look at how well people make up stories. Isn't that what the so-called tourist attractions are made of? In the future, a special nonsense department will be set up in the zoo to be responsible for making up stories. The great foxes all come from Kinkayu Mountain, the grass mud horses all come from the other side of the mountain and the other side of the sea, and there are a group of happy Smurfs on the other side. It doesn't matter whether the 3-legged turtle has mutated or has been unlucky enough to have a broken leg since childhood. Such a large wild turtle is extremely rare to begin with. Even if it is not covered with a layer of legend, its value is still stable today. All the ingredients. With one hand, Hong Fei held down the giant turtle, which was not much smaller than her body. With the other hand, she selected a long, narrow, and sharp tool from the toolbox, and started to touch the skirt of the giant turtle, preparing to remove a complete skirt. Peel off the sides. The skirt peeled off from the live turtle can be cooked separately, which can 100% retain the gelatinous taste of the skirt itself. Moreover, the process of peeling off the skirt itself can showcase the chef's knife skills. Experts can cut the peeled skirt at a glance. The smoothness shows the chef's knife skills. A top chef can even peel off the entire skirt with just one knife. The knife in Hong Fei's hand was special, with a terrifyingly sharp edge. No matter how hard she exerted her force, half of the blade was already buried in the thick skirt. A stream of blood suddenly gushes out from the edge of the knife, and the overlord turtle twitched in pain. After a moment, his body struggled hard, as if he was about to jump up from the big case. If it were an ordinary chef, he would probably make a fool of himself and cut his skirt in half. Hong Fei had been prepared for a long time. She followed the movement of the giant turtle and flicked her wrists slightly. She didn't use much strength at all. Instead, she used the power of the giant turtle to cut open a small part of her skirt with a brush. Then, as if dancing, with one wrong foot, the man teleported to the other side of the giant turtle. The whole audience heard a crash, and Hong Fei lifted it with one hand. When she raised it, there was already a skirt over 1 meter long, several centimeters wider than a palm, and as black as an oarfish. Thunderous applause. Hong Fei tossed it casually and the edge of her skirt flew into the basin on the side. Then he held the giant turtle's abdomen with one hand, twisted his slender waist, let out a sweet cry, and exerted force, turning the giant turtle over on the spot, looking like it was about to disembowel it. At this moment, the door of the banquet hall was suddenly pushed open from the outside. 3 people walked in from the door. The leader was a tall woman, wearing a crisp suit, with long hair neatly tied back. She walked with her head held high and her aura was strong. She looked like a strong woman in the shopping mall. 2 female assistants followed behind. When Hong Fei was dealing with the old turtle, everyone's attention was focused on the desk. Except for the applause just now, there was silence most of the time. The 3 women were wearing high heels and were walking on the marble floor, making a sound that immediately spread throughout the banquet hall. Many people immediately followed the sound, and Su Ming was no exception. At first glance, I saw that the person in charge knew me personally. I had met Ding Jing and Ding Niu last time at the moving ceremony of the top 10 young entrepreneurs in Yangchuan City. The boss of Cyclamen Catering Company. After Ding Jing entered the door, she squinted her eyes slightly. After adapting to the lights in the banquet hall, her eyes fell on Hong Fei who was about to attack the giant turtle on the stage. She raised the corner of her mouth and snorted. The door is facing the center of the banquet hall. The first time Ding Jing walked in, Hong Fei saw her. As soon as the 2 women's eyes met in the air, Hong Fei, who had always been very steady, trembled slightly, and the hand holding the knife trembled subconsciously. This tremor caused big trouble. Her exclusive battle knife was very sharp, and the shining blade brushed past the rope that tied the overlord turtle. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 359. Ding Jing, the big girl from Cyclamen, is a well-known figure in the restaurant business in Yangchuan City. It is actually a very normal thing for her to appear at the exchange meeting. It's just that the exchange meeting is almost over, and she is late. But as soon as she entered the door, Ding Jing and Hong Fei on the stage stared at each other like 2 fighting cocks, more than 10 meters apart. When their eyes met in the air, Ding Jing raised the corner of her mouth slightly and sneered, while Hong Fei was a little flustered. The knife that was supposed to cut the giant turtle's plastron was slightly off-center and scratched the rope that tied the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The rope that tied the Tyrannosaurus Rex was a special nylon rope, as thick as a little finger. After being soaked in water, even a dozen strong men couldn't pull it apart. It was not bragging to say that it could withstand 1,000 pounds of force. Combined with the special tying technique, not to mention a Tyrannosaurus Rex, even a small Tyrannosaurus Rex can be tied tightly. Even if the Tyrannosaurus Rex grows 100 years, it will not have a chance to break free. Things in the world are like this, one thing can defeat another, and changing your mindset often leads to completely different results. The nylon rope that more than a dozen men couldn't tear apart was easily broken in 2 by the thin kitchen knife in the hands of Hong Fei, a weak woman. From the time Ding Dania walked into the venue to the time Hong Fei lost her mind and cut the rope, it was only a few seconds, and the eyes of the whole audience were still focused on Ding Dania. Only the overlord turtle, which had already accepted its fate, rolled its 2 small soybean-like eyes and found that the restraints on its body suddenly became much looser. It subconsciously stretched its 3rd leg. Because it only had this one leg in the back half of its body, it usually relied on it to walk and swim, so this leg was abnormally strong and powerful. With this stretch, the rope that had been cut was immediately broken. The overlord turtle was so happy that it was about to cry. How can this be said? It had just been waiting to die, but at this critical moment of life and death, it suddenly regained its freedom. Is God playing tricks on it? Or did the goddess Nuwa show up and finally help? If it was a turtle, even a relatively fierce alligator turtle, the first reaction at this time would definitely be to run away. But it is a king turtle. As a ferocious turtle, the kingly aura immediately burst out from the bloody carapace, and the belly of the king turtle was still facing the sky. It stretched out its long neck without hesitation, revealing 2 rows of sharp teeth full of rice grains, and bit down at Hong Fi Fei, who was close at hand. Hong Fi Fei was an expert after all. As soon as the knife touched the rope, the hand holding the knife felt something unusual, and her heart skipped a beat. She immediately withdrew her attention from Ding Danio in the distance and looked down at the king turtle. As soon as she looked down, she saw a big mouth full of sharp teeth with a fishy wind blowing towards her face, and it was about to bite her thin wrist. If the bite was real, the wrist would be bitten off on the spot. Be careful, Ding Da Envy, who was far away, happened to witness this scene. Her pupils suddenly dilated, and she screamed. Strangely, the 2 girls were just staring at each other, but at this moment, Ding Jing's voice was full of concern. In the midst of her busy schedule, Hong Fi Fei retracted her wrist, and the overlord turtle bit the kitchen knife. Hearing a heart-wrenching friction sound, the fine iron kitchen knife was actually sparked by several sparks. Hong Fi Fei was frightened and fell to the ground with a thud. She was completely shocked, with her mouth wide open, staring blankly at the giant turtle on the table. The giant turtle's long neck pushed against the table, and then turned its huge body over, and kicked hard on the table with its strong hind legs. With a loud bang, the metal table was actually dented by the kick. The giant turtle also jumped off the table with this force, spitting out the kitchen knife that had been bitten and deformed, and roared hoarsely, rushing into the crowd. The whole banquet hall was instantly in an uproar, and everyone realized what was happening. Security. Security. The host's feet seemed to have springs installed. He jumped far away and crawled to call for security. Oh my God! Help! Help! Security, where is the security? Call 110. The human who was leisurely enjoying the delicious food just now was chased by his own food and lost his soul. In the chaos, people kept falling and being trampled, and tables and chairs were overturned all over the floor. 2 security guards holding electric batons just rushed into the banquet hall from the side door and saw that the Tyrannosaurus Rex had bitten off a chair leg as thick as an adult's arm. The 2 security guards changed their faces and turned around and ran without hesitation. Nana, Nana, don't run, pull me up, oh my God, which bastard stepped on me? Ren Chen was pressed under a table, his voice was hoarse, but the innocent girl Nana who came with him had already screamed and ran away. The heavy solid wood table pressed him so hard that he couldn't move, and people kept stepping on him. Suddenly, the leg that was pressed down felt lighter, and a big man over 2 meters tall overturned the heavy solid wood round table with one hand. Get out, Su Ming left him a side face and snapped his fingers. Ren Chen's eyes were full of tears. This is called a broad mind. Boss Su, I don't need to thank you for your kindness, I will definitely repay you in the future. He got up and limped out. In just half a minute, the banquet hall was in a mess under the rampage of the Overlord Turtle. Some people screamed and ran out of the banquet hall, and the rest ran to the corners of the banquet hall and climbed to higher positions such as tables and cabinets. They shrank their bodies and dared not move, fearing that they would attract the attention of the Overlord Turtle. Only Hong Fi Fei refused to leave. After getting up, she tore off her chef's hat, bit her long hair in her mouth, and strode towards the Overlord Turtle with a knife in her hand. Today's performance was a complete mess for her. A chef not only failed to make a good dish, but also let the ingredients escape. It was so embarrassing that she was thrown to her grandmother's house. If she didn't deal with this Overlord Turtle herself, her 300-year-old signboard of Hong's cuisine would be completely smashed in her hands. She, Hong Fi Fei, would never be able to gain a foothold in the cooking industry again. How did the song go? All the honors of yesterday have become distant memories. I have spent half my life in hard work, and tonight I am walking into the wind and rain again. The problem is that Hong Fei is a chef, not a martial artist. Her divine swordsmanship is based on the fact that the Overlord Turtle is tied up and cannot resist. Now that the Overlord Turtle has escaped from the cage, it is becoming more and more ferocious. How can a weak woman like her be a match for the Overlord Turtle? She may not die even if she chops the Overlord Turtle 10 times, but if the Overlord Turtle bites her, this beautiful cook will become a little cripple from now on. Fei, stop right there. Ding Daniu, who had just glared at Hong Fei, appeared out of nowhere, grabbed Hong Fei and scolded her harshly. Don't worry about my life or death. I smashed the signboard, you must be happy, right? Hong Fei gritted her teeth and raised her hand. Under inertia, her palm swept across Ding Daniu's forehead, pushing Ding Daniu to stagger. You, hello. Ding Daniu's eyes flushed. In a flash, Hong Fei had already rushed behind the Overlord Turtle, aiming at the Overlord Turtle's head and slashing it fiercely. The Overlord Turtle's head tilted, bang. With a crisp sound, the kitchen knife chopped against its neck on the marble floor, and a few sparks popped out. Hong Fei's body followed the inertia and staggered forward a step. Of course, the Overlord Turtle would not miss this opportunity. It opened its big mouth and bit Hong Fei's thigh in one bite, pulling it back hard, and twisting its head half a circle. Fortunately, Hong Fei usually dressed conservatively, with long sleeves and long pants, and her clothes were relatively thick, so the flesh on her legs was not torn off, but she was also in front of her eyes. Black, almost fainted from the pain. Ah! A miserable scream rang in the banquet hall, and Hong Fei fell to the ground all of a sudden. Half of her trouser legs were immediately stained red, and the sound of pain disappeared. Fei, Ding Daniu was furious, and she screamed and rushed towards the Overlord Turtle. Just as she took a step, her foot twisted, the heel of her high heels broke, and Ding Daniu fell on her butt. Su Ming saved Ren Chen, and when he walked to the Overlord Turtle, he saw this scene. Hong Fei fell to the ground like a woman who had given birth and was bleeding heavily, and her body was covered with blood. The Overlord Turtle bit her thigh tightly, and with its two hind legs, it pulled back hard, insisting on eating Hong Fei's plump thigh meat. Being bitten and having a large piece of meat torn off alive are completely different feelings. The latter can completely destroy a person's willpower. What's more, it's a fleshy part like the thigh. Hong Fei's eyes were blurred by crying. The fierceness she had just shown disappeared completely. The girl's fear of pain and timidity took over again. She vaguely saw someone approaching and cried with a sobbing voice, "Help!" Then who? Su, who, please save her. Ding Daniu recognized Su Ming and shouted hoarsely. The Overlord Turtle didn't care whether they shouted for help or not. The screams and blood stimulated it to be ferocious. When you killed me, did my shouting for help work? Now the situation has changed. Let you taste what it means to shout to the sky and the earth and get no response. The louder you shout, the more excited I am. The Overlord Turtle was covered in blood, most of which was blood flowing from the edge of its skirt. It bit Hong Fei's thigh and tore it violently. Hong Fei was still conscious. She supported the bloody ground with both hands and moved her body in the direction of the Overlord Turtle's force, dragging a bloody path on the ground. Let go, Su Ming roared, and a spiritual force surged out, covering the Overlord Turtle. Enshrouded by the spiritual force, the Overlord Turtle was stunned at first. Revenge and obedience were slightly contradictory, but then it chose revenge. Want to die, or do you want to live? Su Ming immediately gave the Overlord Turtle a multiple-choice question that made it impossible for him to choose. The Overlord Turtle finally let go of its mouth unwillingly, slowly retracted its neck, and stared at Su Ming with two small eyes vigilantly. Su Ming, watch it, and beat it if it moves again, Su Ming called out, then squatted down and roughly checked Hong Fei's wound. There was a lot of blood flowing, and the pants were torn. There was a row of bloody teeth marks on the outside of the white thigh. Fortunately, Hong Fei did not force the Overlord Turtle, but moved her body along with the opponent's strength, otherwise at least 2 pounds of thigh meat would be bitten off. Even so, it is estimated that dozens of stitches will be needed, but fortunately it is not fatal. It's a pity for this nice thigh. I'm afraid it won't work if I play with it for a year. It'll be good if I can play with it until Children's Day. Have you seen enough? Call a doctor. Hong Fei said with a sad face. Hearing her screams with full energy, it should be fine. Su Ming also breathed a sigh of relief and turned to Ding Danio and said, "It's okay. It's just a disfigured thigh. You won't die. Nangong Huang, call 120. Ding Danio's expression was obviously relaxed when she heard this, and she breathed a long sigh of relief. But then, her pretty face turned cold again, and she said coldly, "Whether you die or not, it has nothing to do with me." Dividing line. Seeing that 61 is coming, hurry up and play. Well, what am I talking about? Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 360. Ding Danio's attitude changed again. She was so concerned just now that she risked her life to save Hong Fei. In the blink of an eye, when she saw that Hong Fei's life was not in danger, she seemed to change her face and pulled her up. A cold face, as if she lives or dies is none of my business. Hong Fei was in so much pain that she couldn't cry anymore, but she didn't notice the changes in Ding Jing not far away. There's definitely something fishy about these two girls, even Nangong Huan could tell something was wrong. He pushed Su Ming with his shoulder and winked. Just like in all movies, the police finally appeared after the crisis. A large group of police officers rushed in outside the banquet hall. The leader was brandishing a pistol, and several young policemen behind them were holding large iron cages for wolves and dogs. Long-handled controllers, electric batons, and other tools used to control the scene. This time, we really can't blame the police for being late. They were dispatched as soon as they received the alarm. The county police station is only a 3-minute drive from the hotel, and now less than 10 minutes have passed since the incident. Seeing the 3 giant turtles that looked like a hill, the leading police officer tensed up and stopped suddenly. He raised his hand to take aim at the bloody turtles and shouted at Su Ming and the others, "Those guys, comrade, hurry, hurry, step aside. Oh my God, comrade police, don't shoot, I am one of our own." Su Ming raised his hands high and shouted like a captured puppet soldier. The faces of the police comrades are turning green. This kid is sick. Who is going to shoot him? Hurry up and get bitten. The Overlord Turtle is right next to the young man's leg, and he can bite people with his mouth open. The police didn't dare to shoot at such a close distance. The people on this occasion today were all high-profile people. If they hit someone, it would be a major accident. What are you talking about? Get out of the way. Comrade police. A weak voice suddenly sounded from the big speaker in the banquet hall. The host of the exchange meeting was really dedicated. He climbed onto a large cabinet over 1 meter high next to the banquet hall. The cat was like a big bobcat on the top of the cabinet. He didn't forget to hold the microphone when he ran for his life. A voice came from the loudspeaker, "Comrade police, this comrade has subdued the Overlord Turtle." Huh, the policeman was stunned. After a period of commotion, the situation finally calmed down. The ambulance crew rushed into the venue and carried Hong Fei away on a stretcher. Hong Fei bled a lot and fell asleep on the stretcher. Fortunately, her life was not in danger. The people who had just ran out of the banquet hall were comforted by the hotel, and some took notes while others returned to their rooms to rest. Su Ming took Ba Wang Turtle and came to the edge of the banquet hall for questioning under the escort of 2 policemen. The Overlord Turtle has always been obedient. Although his small black eyes have been looking at the people around him with vigilance, fortunately he has not become aggressive again. Su Ming revealed his identity, and when he saw that he was an animal expert in the city, he was immediately surprised. No wonder the fierce old turtle is obedient. Professionals should be hired to deal with animals like this. Although it has been reorganized, in the eyes of outsiders, the zoo is still a state unit. Su Ming, the deputy director, is much higher than the deputy captain of the county public security bureau in front of him. He is also an expert. The deputy captain was very polite at first. After thanking him, he was a little unsure and asked Su Ming for his opinion on how to deal with this turtle. According to the police, they want to severely punish the culprit and kill the overlord turtle. This is also the police's practice in dealing with animals that hurt people. If they are not protecting the animals and they hurt or even kill people, they usually kill them directly. There is an explanation for both the injured and society. The overlord turtle is probably almost 100 years old. Even if it has no contact with spiritual power, it still has a sense of spirituality. As if sensing the police's murderous intention, Ba Wang turtle dragged his injured body, and the cut hem of his skirt left a trail of blood on the ground. He struggled to move behind Su Ming, his small eyes gleaming fiercely as he glared at the proposal to kill him. At the same time, Captain Ge stretched out a thick front leg to scratch Su Ming's trouser leg. Su Ming used his mental power to communicate with the overlord turtle, and immediately felt a strong desire to survive. The ferocious turtle even showed a strong sense of pleading. After finally escaping from the chopping board, and now facing the powerful people's government organs, Ba Wang turtle is really desperate. Captain Ge, I have an idea for you to consider, Su Ming said with a smile. You say it, you say it. I think our country's laws have nothing to do with animals. We can't sentence them to intentionally hurt people. To take a step back, according to the law, it was us who wanted to eat it first, and then it resisted. It can be said to be self-defense. If he is beaten to death, it is an over-defense, and he will not be shot no matter what. Captain Ge laughed at Su Ming's words and said, then what do you think we should do? There's such a big mess. This old turtle bit someone after all. There needs to be a result. Besides, I heard, animals that have bitten people will bite people more often in the future. Well, over-defense will also be punished. I will take it back to the zoo and strictly control it so that it can serve the people's leisure life and serve the people's spare time. Besides, although the overlord turtle is not a protected animal, it can grow to such a big size. They have all turned into spirits, so it is ominous to kill them. Su Ming chuckled and kicked the overlord turtle with his toes. Overlord turtle nodded vigorously. Oh, it's really spiritual. Captain Ge is not young, and he grew up by the river. He has a natural respect for this kind of old aquatic creature that is about to become a spirit. Seeing that the king turtle nodded, Captain Ge hesitated for a moment and finally agreed, okay, take it back, and don't let it hurt anyone again. Also, I'll trouble you to talk to the injured. I understand, don't worry. Su Ming nodded. Hong Fei is the injured person and the owner of the king turtle. If he wants to save the life of the king turtle, of course he has to ask Hong Fei's consent. Hong Fei is obviously not difficult. Even Captain Ge can see that if it weren't for Su Ming, Hong Fei might have lost her life. And after what happened today, Su Ming's mind became active. Even if it wasn't for the king turtle, he was willing to talk to Hong Fei. Hong Fei is still receiving treatment in the hospital. I am afraid that I will not be able to see her today. Su Ming went to the front desk first and booked a room in the hotel. Then he asked Su Ming to carry the turtle to the fisherman Lao Gu's house. The county town is a small place. To put it bluntly, if you fart in the east, you can hear it in the west. Everything that happened in the banquet hall of the hotel has been spread through various channels, and the whole county is in an uproar. As a local famous person, Lao Gu has of course received the news a long time ago. When he saw the turtle carried by Su Meng, Lao Gu was shocked. "Oh, Mr. Su, this big guy is the three-legged turtle." "Turtle?" Su Meng pursed his lips. "What's so magical?" The news was distorted as it was spread. He pointed to the big water tank in the house. "Lao Gu, I want to borrow a big water tank from you and put some water in the box. This turtle is seriously injured. I have to treat it." The turtle escaped the chopping board and escaped the socialist execution. His life was temporarily saved, but it did not mean that it was safe. Hong Fi Fei cut off all the hems of its skirt. The hems are not the dead skin on the soles of its feet. It is the flesh of the turtle. This is the same as peeling off a large piece of flesh from a living person. This is a very serious injury for the old turtle. Although it will not die for the time being, if it is not careful, a little infection will kill it. From the time the hems were cut off to now, this big guy has already shown signs of excessive blood loss and was groggy on the way here. Old Gu quickly selected the largest water tank and poured river water into it while saying with deep sorrow, "Young people nowadays are too ignorant. Turtles of this size are spiritual. The older generation of fishermen would not dare to eat them if they caught them. They would not only release them, but also burn incense to ask the river goddess to forgive them. Now the river goddess is angry. If it weren't for you, someone would have almost died." Su Meng put the giant turtle into the water tank, and old Gu actually lit 3 incense sticks, poured half a bowl of white wine, and bowed to the picture of the river goddess in the room, muttering something like, "The river goddess blesses me." Nangong Huang crossed his arms, holding a cigarette in his mouth, and said with a smile, "Old Gu, you are quite superstitious. No matter how powerful the river god is, he was still controlled by my brother-in-law. According to what you said, my brother-in-law is the husband of the river god. Mr. Su is of course capable." Old Gu smiled awkwardly and did not refute Nangong Huang. Su Ming glared at him, "Don't talk nonsense, you are a cook, and Old Gu and his people make a living by the river. How can it be the same? Cooks kill animals and worship their ancestors differently from fishermen. No matter how big the aquatic creatures are, even if the river god in the portrait is alive, in the eyes of cooks, they are just a dish, but fishermen are different. They come and go on the river in the wind and rain. Whether they can catch fish is secondary. If a wave hits them, their lives will be in danger. Therefore, they have a natural awe of foreign objects in the water and the river god. Although Su Ming is now considered Old Gu's boss, he must respect his beliefs. Even if he disagrees, at least he cannot joke about other people's beliefs. This is only at the riverside. Old Gu is still doing Su Ming's business, so it's not easy to get angry. If it's at the seaside, Nangong Huang dares to joke about the sea gods like Mazu, the local fishermen will really fight him. After being criticized by Su Ming, Nangong Huang shrugged, "Oh, I'll pay attention next time." After that, he stepped on the cigarette, took a stick of incense and followed Old Gu to worship the river goddess. He thought that this river goddess really looks like the Yangtze alligator in your zoo, but he swallowed the words back when he got to his lips. He didn't dare to say it, for fear of being scolded by Su Ming. When the three-legged overlord turtle came, it was lifeless and looked like it would not survive. Old Gu was afraid that this guy would die in his house and attract the blame of the river god, so he hurried to burn incense to the river god. After burning incense, Old Gu had nothing else to do for the time being, and watched Su Ming save the divine turtle with some nervousness. Su Ming quietly poured his spiritual power into the giant turtle. On the surface, he looked mysterious and asked Nangong Huang to go to the town to buy a lot of magic medicine and poured it all into the aquarium. Old Gu's eyes were wide open. The dark brown magic medicine in the water with a faint fragrance, wasn't it the Azades root that can be seen everywhere?